Hello, and thank you for joining Thank a Teacher podcast, where guests can thank awesome educators for impacting their lives. Today, we have the honor of hosting Miss Jacqueline McCracken Houck. Hi, Jackie. Welcome.
Hi, Wendy, and
Welcome.
hi to
Happy
thank
you're
you so
here
much
with
for
us
Hi.
having me on
today.
the 3rd podcast.
Yes, episode 3. And so far, we are really enjoying this and getting to know lots of new guests that are sharing their awesome stories. So we can't wait to hear yours today.
We
I
know
think
it's
Uh,
it's
gonna be a
important that you bring
story.
positivity to teaching. I
yes,
think there's not enough of that.
absolutely. Now,
Thank
Miss
you.
Jackie is a wonderful wife, a mom. She's a retired teacher of over 35 years in elementary education. She's also the owner of teachersub.com. She's going to tell us all about that at the end of our podcast today. So, welcome, Jackie. We have some
Thank
questions
you.
for you, and I know that you're ready with some great answers because you've also had some wonderful educators in your life.
Yes, there wasn't exactly one teacher that made the most impact, but many teachers along the way made
Sure.
small impacts, little corrections in my journey to help me go to a good path. And
Okay.
maybe a little background that I was a student that struggled, and
Mm,
I probably would have been a special ed student in the
see.
70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So I just struggled and I didn't really like school and some teachers were mean to me. I figured I
Because of
would
your
just be funny and silly. There were some teachers who got me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm.
Obviously, because that's why you became a teacher and you are one
The
today.
reason why you
So,
today.
That was not the goal. That was never
nope.
how I started out. But so I'll tell you a little bit about a 3rd grade teacher that I had. That's
Okay.
probably one of my first real memories of a teacher. And her name was Mrs. Cross. And
Miss
she was a
Cross.
formidable but very firm teacher. She filled the room with like her energy and her
Mm,
voice. And for those who are old enough to remember an actor named Jackie Gleason, like he was a big
for sure.
guy, but he was very powerful with his speaking. And although he was very funny and he could
Mhm.
actually move physically, even though he was pretty large. And she was kind of like that. When she was my teacher, one time she shared that she was a child actor.
Oh,
And
wow.
when she told us that, my eyes just lit up and I was starstruck because I was like, "Oh my
Uh,
god." And it was the first time, I believe, that I understood that a teacher had a life outside of school and even before school, like before they
yeah.
became a teacher. They had these lives. Like, I don't know what I thought. Maybe I thought they lived in school. I don't know. But
Yeah,
when
kids are
yeah,
always
so
surprised when they see me at the grocery store or at Target or something. It's like, "Who is that?"
yeah, so I
"That's
was
my
like,
teacher."
"Wow, this is very interesting to me." And
Awesome.
so one of my happy memories with her was I couldn't tell you any work that I did other than on Fridays, she would put on a record player, and back in the day, that's all we had, and she would put on fun, fast-paced songs, maybe like Rock Around the Clock or any fun, Beatles songs of the time, and she would put that on, and we were allowed to stand up behind our seat, and a little volunteer would come and drop a little wet sponge, very, very small little square, on your desk, and she would walk around and sprinkle Ajax, like the little Ajax cleaner. I don't think you
Yeah.
can do that today.
No.
But she'd sprinkle it over her back, she'd put her little foot up, she would twirl, and we would
Oh
all
my
be singing
gosh.
to the music, and she knew how to control a class because the rule was you had to keep your hand on the desk, one hand on the desk, so you
Okay.
couldn't run around. And so we were allowed to dance and scrub, and then another kid would come by with a cleaner sponge, and we would rinse, and then somebody would come with a paper
Too
towel, and then on
funny.
Fridays, we had a little
Oh,
singing, a
wow.
little dancing, and our desks were clean.
I love that.
And
That's amazing.
yeah.
When I taught
Yeah.
elementary, we would sometimes write our spelling words in shaving cream and then clean them off, and then the whole room would smell really good, and the kids loved it, and my desks became clean because it's really like just a foamy soap. It
And it
smells
cleans your
really
desk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
the
clean our
kindergarten
desks.
classes do that. But
Yeah, I
now
was
that
a
I
resource room teacher for young
yeah,
children, so I tried to make their learning fun.
and so later when I was in high school, I had gone up to back up to the elementary. We were all on one, like, piece of land, and I walked up to the elementary, and I walked by her room, and I said, "Oh, hi, Mrs. Cross." I'm like, "Do you remember me?" And she said, "I'll never forget you, Jackie." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's
Oh.
so great." Now that I'm a teacher, I think, "Ooh." I that could have double edge,
You never know.
because some are remembered for good reasons and some not, so.
That's true. That is too
So
funny.
that was Mrs. Cross, and from her, I learned that you should share a little bit of yourself. You should
I
bring
love
joy
that.
into your classroom and silliness, not all day, but sometimes, and
Absolutely, there's a
that's
time and a
all I
place for
remember.
it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
How did this teacher influence your personal or academic life?
Yeah, I think what I took from her and put into my little toolbox is that you need to have shared joy with children, and you need to lighten up sometimes. Not
Mm,
all the time. Remember, she was formidable but fair, and every once in a while we could let loose, and
show her silly
that's a
side.
nice balance.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Were there like any challenges that, any of these teachers kind of, helped you overcome?
Well, I always had a lot of academic challenges, and it might have been in 3rd grade where a reading recovery teacher of some sort. Her name was Mrs. Gloom. Of all names, right? But I love and so she would come and get me, only me, out of the classroom, and I would skip down the hallway, and her room was full of, like, a colored rug, and no classroom had that. This was
Yeah.
and toys and things, and she would work with me with sounds, and I just loved to be picked up by Mrs. Gloom, and I think Mrs. Cross was glad to get rid of me for a little while, you know?
Yeah, see, that's what I did as a resource room teacher. It was more of a pullout.
I appreciated me you when you put me out. I'm like,
I went by
I'm
myself, so
quiet.
I don't know if I was really that low or that wild? I don't know. I can't remember.
You got that one-on-one assistance.
You can't be with any other group.
That's okay.
Mhm.
Look at
But
you today, though. I mean, you have obviously
Amazing.
influenced a lot of children. And so we'll talk about your career as a teacher also, because you were a student and then became a teacher.
so in the arc of my teaching, there's when I moved to high school, there was actually a superintendent that became very impactful to me. So in the 80s, her name was Dr. Laura Fliegner. And so I went to school in Nanuet, New York, which is about 20 miles north of New York City. And it was a small district, but she was the superintendent. And at one point, I addressed the student body in a talk about the dangers of teenage drinking and driving. It was actually the first year of
Awesome.
MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Oh,
So
wow.
how long ago it was. Yeah, and so I addressed the student body and I had a speech prepared, and you could hear a pin drop when I did it, and I look back now and I'm like, wow, that for somebody 18 years old to be able to do that was,
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
amazing to do.
And I never had a problem talking. That's definitely my strength. And so, unbeknownst to me, the superintendent was there. And unbeknownst to me, also, when I got home from school, my parents said that she had called them and told them about the talk that I had given and that she was very proud of me and it was very impactful
Wow.
and that she just wanted them to know. And so she also wrote me a thank
That's
you,
so
a note saying the same thing. And along the way, too, she would often clip articles of my athletic performance or my team's performance. I was a track and soccer basketball. So if we like
mhm.
won, you know, the state semis or something, she'd
Wow.
cut out the article and
Mm,
send it to me and just say, I thought you'd like an extra copy for your scrapbook. And so
So
it's very
kind.
unusual.
that's amazing.
Yeah, to get a letter from your superintendent with a little personalized note. And so
Mhm.
she would do that.
She took the
And
time to do that. It was really nice.
yes. And so later in my college years, where I did not go to be a teacher, I went to be a physical trainer. And my
Okay.
first broken ankle told me that I will not be doing that. And then I went into communications. I thought maybe I'd be a newscaster. And I didn't really like all the work behind the camera. And
Okay.
so then I didn't know what to do. And somebody said, you should be a teacher because you're really good with kids. And I was coaching like CYO and some softball kids. And I said, I don't like teachers. I don't like school. I could never be a teacher. So off I go to the intro class. And the professor said, you want to be a teacher? He goes, don't they call you Hollywood? I said, well, that's my
Hollywood.
nickname. He goes, you'll never make it. And I said,
Boy.
So sometimes the nuggets are those,
Yeah, the
and I'm
challenge.
pretty competitive,
He was
and
trying to
not
challenge
why
you.
I became a teacher, but I was like, "Who's this person telling me I can't do something?"
Mhm.
So the rule of intro to elementary was you had to do 20 hours of observing and,
Yeah.
sitting in a classroom. And the first day I went there, the teacher threw on some workbooks and said, "You know what? Correct page 28." And there was like 25 workbooks. So I did, and I was enjoying that. And then it was lunchtime and she said, "We eat in the faculty room and we'll pick up the kids in an hour." And I remember this professor said, "You need to stay out of the faculty room because there's only negativity and
Mhm.
gossiping that goes on there." So I was like, "Oh, can I eat with the children?" And she said, "If you want." And I ate with them and I went to recess with them. And the 20 hours that I
That's
had to
cool.
do became 90 hours that I wanted to do.
That's
That
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
and that teacher told that professor that said I wouldn't make it, she goes, "When she's ready for student teaching, I want her." And so I have to get
You
back
may
to the administrator. I'm
That's
sorry.
so
So
cool. Okay.
at the end of my teaching and I'm ready to graduate, one of the things our professor said is we needed to reach out to somebody in education to let them know that we are, ready to be looking for jobs. And there was no LinkedIn then, no internet. So it was really person to person networking and
Mhm.
who you know. And
Yeah.
so
It's not
I
what you
was
know too,
thinking,
you know.
who could I write to? Like most of my teachers were like, "Get out of here." So I said, "No, that Dr. Fliegner, I think she would remember me." So I wrote to her and she wrote back and she said, "Congratulations. When you come back home, call me." And I did.
Aw.
And
And that was the
That's
superintendent?
amazing.
she got me my first job.
That's
I love
amazing.
that.
That had to
Very
be
Because,
very
cool.
special for her too.
yes, I missed this one point that when I wrote to her, she was no longer the superintendent of my school. She had moved on to a new county and she was now the superintendent of the whole county. So she was the superintendent's boss. And
And what county is that? So we can find her and say
that was
thank you.
Ulster County, which in our area it would be known as the Hudson Valley. So
Okay.
along the Hudson River, the Catskill Mountains, and so I moved up there. She's really put me on my path, and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
I always told
Yes.
my son if he ever moved to New York City that I would move to the mountains in New York where you are.
well, you have a connection now, so give me a
Yeah.
call.
Now we've got Miss Fleetner too. She's probably
I
not still
know.
there, is she?
She's
I
no
was
longer a superintendent, but my hope is that she's still around. She's probably in her 80s, closer to
uh,
90s.
look at that. Well, hopefully
That's
she
amazing.
hears this one day. That would be awesome.
I'll look her up
Someone
and
can
send it.
share. Yeah, you should. So who else do you have that we are
So
talk about today? Is there a teacher that maybe had some unique strategies for engaging the
yeah,
students?
so when I was in college, one college professor, his name was Dr. Savage, and he was an education
Savage.
professor, and he would often come to my athletic events. In that I played 3 sports in college. Unbeknownst to me, that's a big deal, but I
What
just
did you
didn't know
play?
any better. I played soccer and basketball, and because they didn't have a track, I played softball, and that's where I
Nice.
got the name Hollywood because I had a
Oh,
red mitt and sunglasses, and I
that's
never tied
cool.
my shoes. Walked in, I was walking in with shades on and untied sneakers and my red mitt, and they go, "Who's this? Where'd she come from? Hollywood?"
Hollywood. That's cool.
And so anyway, he would come to, whatever, sometimes soccer, sometimes basketball. And he would always say, "Hi, good luck today." And I
Oh,
was like, "Oh my God," because your parents don't come when you're far away at
sure.
school. And so it was always nice to have a familiar face. And then for the strategies, he would, in discussion, he would say, "Well, you have to persevere." And like, "Jackie, remember in your game, you guys were down 2 goals and you
Oh,
really put it
nice.
together and then you came out winning." He's like, "That's because you don't give up." And so he would take what he saw and he would
Mhm.
put it into the lesson, and it wasn't just me. He would say, "When I went to so and so and she was the lead in the play, and boy, can she sing," and this and that, and then you would learn things about your classmates that you may not have known. Because in college, it's you didn't grow up in the same town with these people, so you
Yeah.
don't
Sure.
really know them, and so he would take interest in our interests, and
Your
then he would
personal strengths. Yeah.
bring them into the classroom.
That is
And
wonderful.
That's amazing.
at the end of my school at graduation, I ran up to him and I said, "Dr. Savage, I just want to thank you for always showing up,
Mhm.
and making me aware that you were there. It always made it more special. And I would really like to do something for you for that." And he said, "To thank you for that." And he said, "The best way you can thank me is to remember how it made you feel."
It's so cool
That's
that you
Yeah.
so
said that,
cool.
because it is so true, like, taking the extra time to go and let the kids know that you're watching them and that you can see them in doing the things that they were really good at, and for you, you said you enjoyed sports, and for the other young lady who enjoyed theater, and the fact that he wanted to find you in your element and then just
That's
praise that
amazing.
is really good teaching for sure.
And to remember, not everybody shines in a classroom.
That's right.
And
It's
so
very
I have
true.
several students. I could remember one boy, he was very tough and he wore the football jersey in. This is fourth grade I'm teaching. I said, "Oh, you play football?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "You got a game this weekend?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Where is it?" He goes, "I don't know." And so I called his mother and I said, "Where is his game and what time is it?" And I said, "I will try to go." So I showed up to his game and I brought him some Gatorade and some Gatorade for his buddies.
Nice.
I made sure I went early and I said, "Come on over." I think his name was Savion. I'm like, "Savion, come on over." And he's like, he didn't know what to do. Like they're not used to you being out of the classroom either.
Mhm.
And I used that like in class. I said, "What did we do this week?" And I said, "I went and I saw Savion." And I had a few kids, John and Joe. And
Yeah,
oh, they great football players. It really captures them.
for
That
sure.
prob that probably really impacted him because I did track. A lot of times when my family couldn't make it and, I invited
Mhm.
teachers popped up, and it makes you,
Mhm.
like, feel like you're important, like you matter, like, just besides being in the classroom, this teacher is actually showing up for me outside of school.
And I applaud you for inviting them. I would never think to invite them. They were like a different species, the teachers to me, like
Yeah.
the
It wasn't a lot of them, but I
Not
think it was
Tania.
some.
Tania was close with all her teachers.
I just saw on a social media post that one of my fourth grade and then fifth grade students, because I looped with her, she is the valedictorian. So she doesn't know it yet, but
Yay.
I'm going there and I will be there to
Aw,
show her that we
That's
care even
amazing.
that they
that's
need. And you
awesome.
can't do that for every child, but you do what you can. That's
Yes,
That's all that
agreed.
matters, as long as
Yep,
you're impacting someone's life.
for
yeah.
That's all
sure.
that.
Last year, I had a few cheerleaders and football players on my caseload, and I went to a couple of the football games, and I was there to really just, like, show the kids, like, that I was there for them, and I didn't really care who won or anything else, but I was
Oh,
like, "Miss Curtis is here to say, go
yeah. Well,
team." Yeah.
and some of my kids were little actors in the local theaters and I would go see them.
Yes, I used to go to the theater shows to watch the
Yeah,
students.
like you say, I think, and this I did do for my whole career, is that you need to share a little bit of yourself so that they know
That's
that you're
true.
human, and to be silly and lighten up
Mhm.
sometimes, and to take the time to show that you're interested in them and to show up when you can.
Absolutely. It's not always about
Absolutely.
teaching the curriculum, it's about other things, and
Just
it's
being in a
about
child life.
connecting with them. Mhm.
I would
I
say that
agree.
often when the parents would come in for like open house, and I'd say the least thing I do is teach curriculum. The
Mm.
most thing I teach is how to be a human and how to
Yeah,
be a good person.
'cause
Yeah.
it's life skills too that we need to help implement for them, other than just academics, and, you know, I think a lot of us really take that to heart and really try every day to teach them some patience. It seems like we're the bad guy half the time because we're trying to get them to do things they don't wanna do, but in all reality, it's just getting them to learn some new skills and to grow a little bit as
Mm.
well.
And life wants you to do a lot of things you don't want to do. And I
That's the
think it's
truth.
fabulous that you and Tania have kept a connection. That
Mhm.
I don't have one of those. So that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Me I've
she reached
always
out to
tried
me
to.
on Instagram and said, "Hey, I just wanna thank you for, being a a good person to me when I was in school, and I thought, I'm getting a lot of these from these kids. They're starting to slide into my DMs, and so I thought, you have to really open this up and allow others to be able to thank people on a platform where, it's not so private. I think people need to hear more about some awesome educators that are really teaching with
Yes.
their hearts and showing up every day because, their paychecks aren't huge and they could be doing other things with their skills, like being a physical trainer like you were going to be, or, any type of, I wanted to be a dentist at one point and that never happened. So I wanted to be several other jobs, like a fashion buyer. And so I'm just not that person. I think that I became like my parents. So working in
Yeah,
education.
I think schooling and education and meeting lots of different teachers is part of the journey to help you find yourself. And
Mhm,
I would often explain to parents, like I think of education like a ladder, and you have the left and the right side, bars, and then you have the
mhm.
steps that go up. And school is like that. And maybe first grade and second grade were really strong steps, and maybe they were a little off balance on the third step, but they made it to the fourth. And sometimes you have a step that you need to take a rest on, or you can recover, and you become stronger there. And the parents are the left and the right, the parents in the
Yes.
community. The
Mhm,
teachers are the steps. Mhm.
mhm.
Well,
And we
I
just have to
certainly
hold their hands and help them get up those steps.
Give them a little push.
And then
Mhm.
eventually just let go of those hands and be like, "Okay, you got this. You're on your own now. It's all you."
that's the scary thing. I think that's towards the end of high school and Mr. Hughes Street and had these teachers. It's like, okay, what do I do now? They're not holding my hand anymore. They can't tell me anymore about what do I do for as applications. They can't tell me to be on time with
Mm,
things. Like, what am I gonna do? My parents are
You're gonna
already like,
grow up.
Tania, you gotta get out. So
yeah.
I'm like, oh Lord, what am I gonna do? It's such a scary thing, but that's why I always loved emailing and getting back to them to say, hey, this going on in my life now. I'm doing this. I have my son, Mazian, 2024. And so I was emailing them like, "Oh, I had a baby and I would love for you guys to come to the baby shower or any of that." So it's a scary thing when you're
Mhm,
ending this education part of high school and now you're like, "Okay, what do I do now?" So
mhm,
I think it's amazing that you can have these teachers in our life to help you and guide you in the right way. Because I can say, Miss Curtis, she's impacted a lot. I'm even thinking about going back, maybe trying to be a teacher. I've always loved kids, I have
mhm,
11 nieces and nephews, so I've always been around kids my whole entire life. And so being around these teachers and now having this podcast, hearing all these stories, it's like helping me, become the person that I am. And, okay, these are some very, very strong stories about, people who didn't even think about teaching at first. And now they're, amazing at it. So that's what I love about this as well and how impactful teachers can be.
and honestly, to me,
Right.
I don't think I would've wanted to do anything else because when I don't teach, I've taken breaks. I managed a ladies fitness center, and it was like, I don't feel as useful. I feel like I have things to offer that I can't do in other jobs. Whereas if I'm helping children, I know that there's always gonna be somebody else that could use somebody like me, and that's kinda why I
Yeah.
think I kept going. 32
Yeah.
years.
I would think about that. I had
Yes.
friends that worked at corporations like Sony Corporation or this. And, after 10, 15 years, they're just dropped with a pink slip.
Yeah.
And I was very glad that I spent my time and energy. I felt like I put as much good into the world as I could. I'd rather work with 25, 10-year olds than 30-year-olds because adults, you have no patience for them. They should know better. They should be able to get along. Kids, you understand, trying to teach them.
Yes,
As
absolutely.
a teacher, so
She
I
has
prepare.
Yeah, she's awesome. And I love your background too. Did you
Oh,
make that?
yes, I did. I have a little educational side gig that I've started, and You need a background, right? So I just made a little bulletin board,
Yeah,
but
your YouTube channel. You'll have to tell everybody at your YouTube channel and about your writing program.
okay,
So
so I
she's
wanted
got
to talk to
a
you about
letter.
this little letter that showed up
Yes.
2 years before I ended my career, and, I had spoken at my retirement luncheon, and I was thinking about what kind of a speech to do, and I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna read this child's letter because it says
Oh.
wraps up pretty why we teach and
Mhm.
whether or not you had an impact." And I said to the teachers, I said, "You know, I hope everybody gets at least one of these in their
Oh.
career," and,
Well, we would
it's
love
a
to
little
hear it.
yeah, it's a little easier to reach out now with social media, but, 20
Mhm.
years ago, a kid might think of you, but they don't know how to get a hold of you. And so this particular one, though, sent it to the elementary school, hoping I would still be there, I guess. She was in second grade. That was my
Okay.
first experience. I had 10 years doing that. And it was probably the early 90s. And her father came in for a parent conference, and we were just talking. She had a twin in another class, and I was just talking about her progress. And he broke down crying, saying, our world is upside down. And the mother left, and he was alone with these two girls. And he didn't even have any money to buy them a birthday gift. And their birthday was coming up. They were going to turn 8. And he was just beside himself. They were going to be homeless. So I
Mhm.
came home and I spoke to this girl's gonna turn 8 years old, and she won't even have a birthday present. So
Mhm.
that really bothered me, and because of all the teachers I had, show joy, be invested, show up if you can, all those kinds of
Mhm.
things. I think I wanna give them a birthday party, and I didn't know how to do that, so I went to the social worker, and I told them the story. I said, "I'll pay. I take them to Chuck E. Cheese after school, and, like, can you
Oh.
drive them? Okay it with their father?" And so she did that, and then I told the girls, "You can't tell anybody," 'cause she went,
Yeah.
"Let's throw me a birthday party." Oh my god, just don't want all of them to know, and
Right.
then so she got the okay, and I told her and her sister that they could invite one other friend because only 4 kids could fit in the car, right? And I went out and I bought them new sneakers and some little gifts. I don't know what it was. I put them
So
in gift bags.
thoughtful.
And my husband met me at the Chuck E. Cheese, and I said, "Order anything you want." And they were happy. This 30 years later,
No.
this letter shows up. So here it goes.
Okay.
It says, "Dear Miss McCracken, although you may not recognize the name or the sender's address, you may remember me after reading this. I remember you as a child. You were not only my second grade teacher, you were my savior. I never forgot
Mhm.
what you did for my sister and I as children, and it was you that gave me and my twin the best birthday of a lifetime. I remember the last day of second grade and wishing that it would never end because I knew the next morning would change my life forever. When most kids spend their summer playing, we spent ours camping with only the items we owned that could fit into a small size Honda. And that car became our home. When the car broke down in Minneapolis, we lost
Mhm.
everything. Eventually, we ended up in foster care and separated from each other. After years of in and out of foster care, I went back with our father, and then he left. My twin was in another foster home while I was living with him. When he left, I was in seventh grade. I didn't know what to do, so I told my twin that dad had left and hadn't been back in days. I was running out of food and clean clothes. She went to the school office and told them what I had told her. And then I wound up in a different foster home from my twin again. While in this particular foster home, I didn't speak to them or anyone. I shut down. My birthday passed as a regular, ordinary day, and it wasn't until a few weeks had passed that I had said 2 words to them, and they said to me that they had read my file and learned that I spent my birthday with them. They asked if we could celebrate it, and I agreed. And as I blew my candles out, they asked what I wished for, and I said I wished to live with my twin. And eventually my wish came true, and we were adopted by that same family they
Wow.
gave my
That's
wish.
awesome.
I was thinking about birthdays and how at a young age you gave me a chance to have a birthday and be a kid. Thank you for everything you did for me. You will always be remembered in my heart.
Wow.
That is very
That, like,
special.
gave me chills. That's, like, so impactful for you, just to be hearing that what a child has to go through, being put in a
Mhm.
foster care, all the challenges of going through it, wanting to be back with your sibling, out of anybody in the world. Like your sibling is someone that you want and you love. If anybody has siblings out there, be understandable. But that just has to be, amazing to, hear as a teacher that you really helped some kids out.
Yeah, and I think what really gets me is that, I didn't do that's the only child I ever did that for, right? And to know that I'm her only happy memory. So
Wow. 'Cause she
that
blocked a lot of the other ones out probably.
and I
Yeah.
think too, that was because of Miss Cross reminding me to bring joy,
Mhm.
and Dr. Fliegner to show that you care,
I
and
love it.
Professor Dr. Savage that
Show
show
up.
up.
Look at that. That's
Amazing.
awesome. So you have become one of those teachers because of some of the teachers that just influenced you in small little ways. And so I think it should remind those of us who are still teaching, you never know what kind of difference you're going to make because of the lives some of these children live. And you don't know what's very special to them, even if it's that little eraser that they pick out of your prize box. But anytime you can find something positive or praiseworthy to, you know, say or do for a child or throw them a little personal birthday party. But I thought, that really shows wonderful character. And I bet you're an awesome mom too for your own boys.
Yeah, but they don't call me as much as I wish they would now. They're 28 and 26. And I
Mm.
remember some kids in the class going, "You're a mom?" They're like, "I want you to be my mom." I'm like, "No, you don't."
I'm sure.
And my kids would say, "Do you curse in class? Because you curse at home." So
That's funny.
I said, "I don't get paid to raise you, so I can curse."
Oh my gosh. My poor
All right,
son,
so
he went
is
to
there anything else
school.
I could answer for you?
Well, I think we want to know what you're doing now. Tell us all about what you've got going on now.
What happened to me is I was retiring, right? I mean, my whole life was school, right?
Yeah.
Kindergarten, school, college, right? So I've been on a school calendar for 55 years. And so I was going to leave, and I'm like, it took me a long time to get good at this stuff. Like, when you're young, you think you're good. And then when you're older, you're like, oh God. But I think you make up in passion and energy what you don't have in experience. So it all
Yeah,
balances out.
that's true. I love that.
So I said, I'm going
Amazing.
to take this 35 years of experience and put it in a beach chair and just sit there. I don't think so. Like, I think you could take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the teaching out of the teacher. I want to be a teacher that can teach basic foundational skills. I just wanted to do like maybe some thinking skills, some fun math skills. And I said, maybe I'll start with cursive because I was very upset that cursive was taken out of the
Mhm.
curriculum in my state of New York. And I found out that only 25 of 50 states in America mandate cursive.
Mm.
And if you know anything about teaching, if they don't mandate it and test it, teachers don't do it. And I said, you know what? I bet you the rich people's private schools are teaching cursive, but the public school's not going to know it, and they're going to lose a lot of like connection to generations, like grandma's recipes written in
Absolutely.
cursive, historical
Being able to
documents.
read in cursive too.
I felt like if you don't learn to write in cursive, you won't learn to read it. Like you can't
Mhm.
just learn to read; you actually have to learn to write it, even
Absolutely.
never write in cursive again once you're out of 5th grade, you'll always be able to read it because you trained your brain in the movements.
Yeah.
And kind of like riding a bike. Maybe you don't ride a bike for 20 years, but if you could ride a bike, you'll be able to ride it. I said, that's where I'm going to start. I mean, it's a big world out there. Let me start with cursive. So, and like I said, I wanted to be a teacher for when other teachers, don't want to do it or, oh, she does it better than me. So I call my site teacher sub because every teacher needs a sub, but only a good sub, right? Nobody wants a bad. And
That's
so I started this little
look at
website.
that.
So
That's
that's my
awesome.
little sign.
That's amazing.
And so I created a cursive writing program that I call Master Cursive with Colors. And I decided to take all of my teaching because I taught kindergarten and 2nd
Okay.
grade and 5th grade. And if you know anything about young writers, they have to write big and they use their
Yes.
whole
Oh,
arm.
yes.
and
Hold
this
on.
is like a crayon
I'm
page,
having that
right? So
problem with
it's
my
like
niece.
and then it progresses to like a medium size, right? And
Mhm.
every page in the workbook has a video lesson to go with it. So I
Nice.
might say, okay, you need workbook page 7 today and a marker. Go get it. And
Nice.
then, then we work on this together. And then I end the lesson with a little wrap up. And the final in a letter family would be how to connect them. And then the next family
Nice.
begin. And to make it educationally friendly, that would be the lesson. And so I also made like a classroom friendly power pages where after the
Mm.
lesson, there could be like 1 page a day for like a week. So you could PDF copy
Awesome.
these out. And it's just a little bit
Wow.
more practice. And also, I give things that are like a little bit more fun, like letter recognition, where you would like
Those are
choose a
awesome.
color pattern. And so
Mhm.
these are like, independent seat work. And so the
That's
teacher
really good.
could put me up on the screen and
Yeah.
stand in the back and, know who's in their desk and know who's not listening. And
And kids
instead
will
of,
pay
doing
attention
it
to you because you're on the screen more
Yeah.
probably than they
right.
are the teacher in the classroom. I've
Yeah,
done
so
that
that's where
before.
it started.
Pull up
So
teachers
that's
from YouTube reading a book or something. That's awesome.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so that's I figured let me take because I always liked teaching cursive. I always loved, the beginning cursive,
Mhm.
how it just comes flow and I think it's just of an important skill that I don't want the future generations to lose. So if your school doesn't teach it or if you're a homeschooler and you just want one less thing off your plate, you can go
Mhm.
to my site teachersub.com. It costs $24, $25.
Look at that.
That's
Yeah, and
amazing.
so the videos are over 7.5 hours. Basically, I do 5 shows a day. I do the reading show, the math show, right? And it's all
Mhm.
impromptu and, and
Teaching
I
is
don't charge at
acting.
the door.
Teaching is
Sometimes I
acting because sometimes we have to push aside our own emotions and feelings because we're human beings and we have families and we have conflicts with other people in our lives. And sometimes it kind of affects our mood as, a teacher, but we're expected to still be this happy go lucky, jolly person, because it does impact the attitudes and the whole dynamics of a classroom. So a lot of acting goes on every
I
day.
would try to warn my students. I'd say, "Today, I have this much patience. Do you see that? That's none. So
This,
tread carefully."
yeah,
And then some
you're on
days
my
I'd say,
last nerve.
"We're good. I got a whole night's sleep and I ate breakfast. Let's go."
Mhm. Yeah, I've got all the time in the world, or I have no
Yeah.
time at all. So,
I think I could definitely tell if like this girl's having a bad day. I would try to help the other students out, or I would be like,
mhm,
okay, Matt came in, asked might have asked her for something, and he did something. So okay, let's chill or make sure all the other kids. I feel like I've always been there. It's like okay, let's try to do this, or y'all. If you need help,
absolutely.
I help you because I think that's from my point that want to change about this. I want other students to know that teachers aren't just teachers. They had their moms, their dads.
Mhm,
They have other businesses outside of just being a teacher. And sometimes you do have to give them some grace or some patience to
mhm.
give them 5 minutes to, breathe or just say, hey, teacher, do you need any help? Those things.
I was a single mom, so it wasn't always easy, but thank you, Tania, for noticing my moods, calling me
Sure.
out on it. But she's right.
Every
Get
Everybody
some
has
help.
those days. Everybody
Mhm.
had day isn't always going to be perfect. So as students, it's also important to try to make sure your teacher day can get better. Even if it's just, hey, are you okay? Or
Yeah.
do you need 5 away from me? We could take a break on doing this test right quick. Those things, matters to a teacher. I
Yes.
believe.
Well,
And the
that was
students, you have to remember they might have a bad day too,
absolutely. They're dealing
or
with a lot of
a
things
bad
too. I'm gonna probably buy your handwriting
Same here.
because I tutor elementary students, and the little students I worked with the past year were first graders, and now they're going into second grade. But I helped them with literacy skills, and the mom of one of the little girls just asked me to help prepare the incoming kindergarten daughter with her handwriting and teaching her how to write her name because she needs to be able to write her name. And so I remember, the brain loves color. And I just said, you know what, Serena, right? And I basically have the dots on the paper with her name printed out and a dot for where she should start each letter. And then just the whole color piece. I'm like, you write this as many times and as many colors as you can. So she does rainbow writing of her name, and it always turns out so pretty.
Right,
Of
there's something
course.
magical about cursive because no
Yeah.
child ever said, "Look at how my print." You know, crayons are developmental because they give resistance, which helps
Mhm.
bring the motor memory of the movement, and so I go
Right.
from the large movements to medium to small. It's all the stuff I
That
learned
would be
along the way. It's
amazing.
all good teaching.
Yeah,
Even
that's
for me too,
awesome.
with me having nieces. I have a niece, I stay with my sister at the moment. I'll see her come home with her little school packet and she'll skip the cursive. I'll be like, Cecilia, now I know because auntie did, stop cursive, at a young age too. But we gotta do better. Come on, let's sit down and try it. And I even now, want to go back and relearn how to do something because I probably couldn't write a whole essay in cursive. I was
Well,
always, like, struggling to see grandma what grandma
just
wrote in
practice.
cursive, like,
Yeah.
Lord.
Right.
But I think your book is very impactful, and it's gonna change a lot of kids' life because
I'm gonna
now
get you a book
cursive
for Tania.
isn't a thing. I have to give me some cursive in, cause like, I've always, like, knew my mom's name, my grandma name cursive, and little things, but I just haven't really, they just stopped teaching it after a while, and everything just
Mhm.
became so technology, and you were able to do it on a tablet, and we're bringing back things being on paper and maybe just looking at a video to know how to do it and not just trying to do everything on a screen. So I think that's amazing that you're doing something to really get kids
Mhm.
school. You're making sure these kids are set for life.
She's
And
helping
that's
teachers out
amazing.
too if they need any
And that's
sub-plans
amazing.
or
Yeah, I'll teach it
homeschooling.
for you. You get a free teacher, and like you said, you wanna do it over and over and over again, so they're PDF. You don't have to print the whole workbook out, you just print as you go, and if there's a specific letter, like maybe F is a tough one for
Yeah,
them, K, and so for if that's page 27, you print page 27 out 3 or 4 times, and
I
they
love
can
that.
and if they forgot, they can go back to the video. It's not like, "I forget what my teacher said." Like, I just felt like it would put it in ease for parents, teachers,
Yeah,
and kids. Maybe a kid just wants to learn it, and
it's true.
I your common sense, Tania, of like, it's something it's good, but it is a skill, and anytime somebody has to learn a new skill, it's a little bit of work, and
Mhm.
most you don't want to teach kids to avoid those things because anything is gonna be that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I hate when my iPhone says you're gonna get an update. I'm like, no, I can't learn another update. I can't
I'm the same
can't handle it,
way.
you know? But you have to adjust, and you have to keep learning.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
always good to keep learning and adjusting to things. That's always a big thing to, do. Even now, I try to
And
sit down and I'll try to even do my math. Even with being in college, I'll try to educate myself outside of what just I'm learning. I'll go back to like old books I had from high school and just go
Good.
through them and just read them and write down stuff. So it's always good to educate your brain and to continue learning, even if older, like my mom, she was like, Tania, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, Mom, it's so easy. You just got to take the time. Don't get frustrated. You just got to take
right,
the
you get
time.
Yeah,
it's
I always
time.
tell myself if other people can learn it, I can too. I just haven't figured out how. So, mhm. And that's why I try to instill in my own students versus fixed mindset.
I was known for this quote. I think the cursive got removed from the standards in New York for I think 2016. So for the last
Oh.
like 2 years of my teaching, I kept teaching it. And sometimes the kids would say, "We don't have to learn this anymore." I'd say, "No student of mine is going to sign a multi-million-dollar contract in print. So you're going to learn cursive, and then you're going to write your name in
Love
cursive
that.
every single time on your paper." And as teachers, we know they don't even put their name on the paper. So then
That's
they would
true.
put it in print. They'd say, "Erase and put your name in cursive." So the least that they would have when they left my class was their signature.
Well, Miss Jackie, I know people are gonna come hopefully find you on teachersub.com
Mhm.
and give you lots of business when they need their kids to learn cursive.
The first one is Master Cursor with colors, and you could just Google that and you'll find me. I also have like Instagram. I'm teachersub.com, but that's the Wild West, the TikTok. I'm Teacher
Yes, we
Sub
have a
Hub.
TikTok too, so I'll definitely have to give
I
you a
saw that.
follow.
I followed you. So
Oh,
it was
yeah. So be looking out for a clip of yours. We'll be
Okay.
on there.
Well,
Awesome.
well,
Thank you,
thank you
Tania.
so much for allowing me to share, like, and give credence to these teachers who helped form me. And if anybody sees this, I don't want my coaches, my high school and college, athletic coaches think that they didn't have an impact too. But that's like a different, you know, arena.
Sure.
And
Yeah, you could
yeah.
probably thank 12 to 15 people today and it not be enough. I know when Tania and I did our first, it was like, wow, I have all these people to thank. And I could
Yeah.
have, I could have, of course, thanked more too, but you just have to limit it at some point.
But thank you for letting me do as many as I
Well,
did.
we appreciate you being
We
here with
really
us and
appreciate you.
helping us get this whole podcast started and being a guest here today. So every week on Fridays, we plan on streaming a new podcast on Spotify and YouTube. So please check out our website, www.thankateacherpodcast.com. While we get our feet wet learning how to do this, we appreciate our new and original guests. So we will be very thankful for you.
Every
Thank
every
you.
learning experience is a journey in itself.
And
So
once a teacher, always a teacher, and that's what you're teaching us today. So
Yeah, so
for
thank you for
everybody,
the advice
everybody,
and
thank you so much.
and have a
thank
great
you.
week. Class dismissed. Bye, everybody.
Bye.